morning, everyone. I'm Stephanie Weaver. I'm coming to you from our quarantine kitchen here in San Diego, California. I'm here with Microwave Boy on the camera. Good morning, Microwave Boy.
Morning, Steph.
And Daisy knows that we're somehow talking to people who aren't here, so she's going to start getting all wound up in the other room and might come in and out. Daisy's our golden retriever who just turned 8. So we are, all living at home and cooking more, and maybe you've got some dried beans in your house, so I wanted to show you a really wonderful, super easy way to cook them. And you can cook them on the stovetop in a big pot. You can cook them in a slow cooker like this. I'm just going to move this out of the way now that you've seen the slow cooker so you can see what else I'm doing. And then if you also have an Instant Pot or a similar electric pressure cooker, you can cook them in that. And at the end I'll go through, and then I'm also going to I'll go through each of those methods as well as listing those links in the, what I'm calling the show notes, but they're really the live video links once these go up. So you can just cook the beans with water. Tap water is fine. If you have access to filtered water like a Brita filter or pitcher or pure, that's great. But you don't have, tap water is perfectly fine. You don't use bottled water to make these, so you don't need to do that. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the soaking process. So why dried beans? Let me go ahead and move this out of the way. So beans are a cheap source of protein. So a lot of people use them as a meat replacement. They're an excellent source of fiber, and they're really a staple worldwide in all kinds of healthy indigenous diets. And so you maybe have heard about the Mediterranean diet or the blue zones. All of those diets have beans or lentils as their primary protein source, with maybe small amounts of meat or poultry or fish added in. So they're a great source of protein. They are delicious. And you can cook any type of beans this way. So you can see I have quite a variety of beans in the background. Split peas and lentils will take the shortest amount of time. Kidney beans will take the longest. And also, if beans are older, like if you're not refreshing your supply of beans, they may have to cook quite a lot longer, but you will get edible beans at the end of it. I do recommend soaking them overnight in water. And part of that is that it just makes them a lot more digestible. And you may have heard in some places that people say, well, beans have something on them that are toxic or whatever. That's not the case. What is the case, though, is because they're a seed, right? They're the seed of a plant. So these are garbanzo beans or chickpeas. These are 20 garbanzo beans dried, and this is 20 that have been soaked overnight. So you can see that they've more than doubled in size. What also happens, though, is that every seed has a coating on it to try to keep it from being digested by whatever animal or bird might eat it, because the seed's job is to get planted somewhere else. So the idea is it passes through that animal, gets dropped somewhere else, gets in the soil, and water comes down and it starts to sprout. So it doesn't want any of that to happen while it's inside the animal or the bird. So it does have these coatings to keep it from being digested. So we want to get rid of those in order for this to be as digestible for us as possible. That's why we recommend you soaking them overnight, rinsing and draining them, and starting with a batch of fresh water, which is what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be making, this was 1 cup of garbanzo beans, and that's what they look like after being soaked overnight. I usually don't make more than 1 cup at a time because there's just the 2 of us. Beans can be frozen once they're cooked, so if you have leftover takeout containers or more, fancier containers, either of these work. I usually will, if I'm going to freeze them in 1 or 2 cup servings, depending on the size of your family, and then you can pull them out of the freezer and throw them into a soup or a stew or make a chili out of them. So I'm going to just do this on the stovetop today, and again, it was 1 dried cup of beans. The recipe, that link that I'm going to post, it takes you through all the steps, so you don't have to be taking notes, but this will be 4 cups of the filtered water or tap water, the soaked beans going in there. It really couldn't be any easier because you're just going to bring it to a boil and then turn it down to simmer. And but what we want to do is add some flavoring to this. So I'm going to put in, now you can skip most of this or all of this, but if I cook it with the vegetables, not only does it add a lot of flavor to the beans, I also end up with some leftover vegetable broth, and I make a pureed soup from the vegetables, which is delicious. So I put in 1 or 2 potatoes, 1 scrubbed carrot cut in half, 1 or 2 stalks of celery cut up, and then generally, I'll do 1 onion, and I keep it kind of all together. I just want to peel the skin off of it, but you want to kind of keep it together so it's easier, because I just pulled the root of it off, so that it'll be easier to fish out of the beans and separate it from the beans. And so these vegetables are going to be what I throw in the blender to make my pureed soup. So I've washed these vegetables. Now I'm just gonna just peel the brown papery skin off the onion. If you leave a little bit of the papery skin, it's fine. But I just don't want that in the soup itself. And then just throw it in whole. If you have bay leaves, they add a lovely, lovely flavor. So 2 bay leaves. And then I've got 2 garlic cloves. I'm just gonna squish them with the flat of my knife. Throw that in. 1 more of those. And then a little bit of salt. So I'm on a low sodium diet, so I might actually make these completely without salt, and they would still taste quite good to me. If you're on sort of a normal sodium diet for this half recipe, I'm just going to put in half a teaspoon of iodized sea salt and a little splash of olive oil. Now, if I was making them under normal circumstances, I might put in more olive oil, but I'm kind of trying to conserve my olive oil. And that's it. I'm just going to put it on the stove, bring it to a boil, turn it down to simmer, and then I'm going to let it cook. These soaked chickpeas, I would probably check after 35 or so minutes. They might take 45 minutes, they might take an hour. You're just going to fish one out and blow on it, cool it down, and taste it and see if it's the right texture that you want. So slow cooker, 6 to 8 hours. You want to start checking them after about 5.5 hours, and I'll put in a link to a great post by The Kitchen about how to make beans in the slow cooker. And then if you're going to do it in an Instant Pot or something similar, you put everything in there, close the lid, set the pressure valve, and then most of them have a bean setting, but it's high pressure for 45 minutes. You set that, you walk away, basically it finishes its cycle, and you wait for the whole natural pressure release, which could be it might take a half hour to get to pressure, 45 minutes at pressure, and it could be 30 to 45 minutes before the pressure comes down and you can open the lid, and you're going to have perfectly cooked beans.
Is there a difference in the flavor or texture between the 3 methods?
There's going to be a slight difference. Some of the methods, the beans might break open a little bit, depending on if they're cooked at like the high pressure, the pressure cooker. They may the skins may break. There's no difference in terms of flavor or nutrition. I do like the stove method, but some people like to just throw stuff in and walk away. And if you've got other stuff going on, it's fantastic to just put this in the slow cooker and then come back 6 or 8 hours later and have this wonderful set of beans. And so then what I would do is I would use like a slotted spoon. Obviously this is not cooked, but I would fish out each of these things I added to the beans, put that in the blender with just enough of this broth to blend it into a soup. So then I've got 2 or 3 servings of really incredibly tasty soup. And then I would strain the beans, capture the broth. Then that's broth that you can use for a soup base. You can use it to cook grains. I mean, it's going to be a little bit thick from the beans, so you might have to add some filtered water to make it into a vegetable broth, but then you've not wasted anything at all. The only thing you would throw away from this whole situation would be the bay leaves. You don't want to put those in the blender. So, you have any other questions, microwave boy?
No.
Okay.
That's it.
So then what do you do with these? Well, you can make hummus with chickpeas. You can make, I often make like a potato, cauliflower curry with chickpeas. There's lots of, a chickpea masala with coconut milk and curry or masala spices. Those are some, you can make bean burgers, and I'll put the link to that in. So there's lots of great things you can do once you cook them. And this is, probably maybe, I don't even know if it would have been 50 cents worth of beans, as opposed to buying the can, which might be $1.69. So, all of us are probably looking to conserve what we spend right now.
And
because
the canned bean has more sodium?
the canned beans usually would have more sodium. Sometimes you can buy them with, low sodium or no salt added. Those can be a little bit more expensive. So the nice thing is, if you are on a specialized diet like I am, cooking for yourself, you can really control all of those things. You can really know what you're getting so that it can be also safe and healthy for you. So I look forward to answering your questions. Feel free to drop questions in the comments on this video. And if you're not following me, if you're watching this on YouTube, follow me on Facebook, Stephanie Weaver, MPH, like miles per hour. It actually stands for Masters of Public Health.
You are hard to keep up with.
I am hard to keep up with. I'm also the author of the Migraine Relief Plan. So if you know anybody in your life who gets migraines, there's 75 anti-inflammatory recipes in there, as well as a whole lifestyle guide to living well with migraine disease. I'll see you guys again soon. Thanks so much for watching, and take care of yourselves. Bye.